Hello and welcome to Cookery with Mason Storm. On today's episode we're going to look at making some banana splits. I'm going to be making a chocolate sauce and a caramel sauce, and I probably should have made a strawberry sauce but I didn't. So anyway, this is what I got, so let it begin. The caramel sauce that I like to make is incredibly easy. Consists of 1 cup of brown sugar, 1/4 cup of milk, and half a cup of butter. Go over to the stove top, get a nice saucepan out. We'll crank our heat up to about medium high, kind of. And then we'll dump in our brown sugar. And then we'll throw in our butter. We're just going to let that kind of melt down for a little bit before we add our milk. It doesn't take very long for the butter to all melt into the sugar, and we are left with a nice brown, sugary, buttery slurry. And we need to add the milk to make sure that it doesn't get too hard or it doesn't get too soft. I'm not entirely sure which one it is, but adding a little bit of milk gets the right consistency when we're done. So once our butter brown sugar mixture starts to fully combine, we'll add our milk, and then we'll wait a little while, and we'll wait a little bit longer, and eventually it'll start to boil. And once it starts to boil, you're going to want to look at the clock, and you want to keep stirring it for another 2 to 3 minutes. And this will give us the proper amount of thickening once it starts to cool off. And we'll just keep stirring that and letting it cook down, watching the clock as we go. And before you know it, it'll be ready. And of course, once it's ready, we're just going to take it off the heat, let it cool down for a minute or so, and then pour it into a different vessel. I'm going to be reusing this saucepan in the chocolate sauce, so it was more important than normal for me to get it kind of cleared out good. And if your pot's still nice and hot, putting water in it works really good at cleaning it up, so there's always that. And now it's time to make our second sauce. So I have 2 tablespoons of butter, 1/8 teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of sugar, 1/2 cup of cocoa powder, and half a cup of water. This starts out mostly the same as the last one. Saucepan on the stove. We'll go for our medium-high heat again, like so. And then we'll add our sugar, our cocoa powder, our salt, and of course, our butter, all at the same time. Although it's probably not necessary to add the butter at this point, but I did, and it turned out really tasty, so I think that's kind of fine. And we're just going to keep stirring it and mixing it around. Eventually all that butter is going to melt into the mix. And then I'm just going to add the water in. Now then we're just going to keep kind of stirring it till all of the cocoa powder and sugar all blend smoothly with the water. And eventually at some point in time the water is going to start to boil, but hopefully we can get it all stirred out so it's a nice consistent type of syrup before the boiling process occurs. And sometimes it's a little bit frustrating to get all the cocoa powder clumps to kind of break apart, but with a little time and a little patience, it usually happens on its own fairly okay, I guess. And before you know it, it'll start boiling away. And once it starts boiling, we're going to do the same thing we did with the caramel sauce. We're going to look to the clock, and we're going to cook it for another 2 to 3 minutes and give it plenty of time to kind of cook down. And it may seem really thin, and it kind of is, but once we take this off of the stove and it starts to cool down, it's going to thicken right up. It's going to be a nice super duper thick chocolate yummy syrup. But until then, we're just going to keep stirring it and letting it kind of cook down. And it's going to appear really thin, so it's kind of hard to judge how thick it's going to be, but it comes out pretty thick. And before you know it, our time is going to be up, so I'm just going to take the pan off of the heat, let it cool down for a minute or so, and then dump it in our bowl. And now we have the second ingredient for our banana split. How fabulous is that? So now to begin assembling our banana split. I have my 2 different syrups. I got my bananas, I got my cherries, and my Neapolitan ice cream, which is chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry flavored. So now that my banana is peeled, I'm going to cut the banana across the middle like this and split it in half, hence the banana split. and just stick it in the bowls. I'm going to regret that later on because the ice cream kind of crushed the bananas and it didn't really look kind of the way I wanted it to, but that's neither here nor there. So that I got that ready, I'm going to start scooping some ice cream in. A big scoop of each, chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla, of course, which doesn't take very long to do. This bowl is massive. This amount of ice cream is insane. That bowl, I normally use it for my salads, and I usually make fairly big salads, and don't know what I had going on here, but it took a lot of finagling to get my ice cream back in line, but it did look somewhat presentable by the end of this. I might need to invest into a proper banana split tray, but I prefer sundaes anyway. Having chocolate and caramel sauce already, that's probably what I'll use the leftovers for. Yum. And now we'll just drizzle a bunch of chocolate sauce and caramel sauce all over the ice cream and try to make it look as pretty as possible before adding our cherries. And that is how you make a banana split. Although I'm missing the strawberry topping and the peanuts, if you're into that. Not really a big nut fan, so I left those out. So let me know in the comments below how you make your banana splits. And if you like my content and would like to see more of it, please like and subscribe. And until next time, stay awesome.